I am honored and proud to introduce the next First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is very kind of you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I am honored to be here. I want to thank Debbie for that wonderful introduction. She said she was nervous, but she was fooling me. She did a phenomenal job. Before we begin our conversation today, I just want to thank a few people who are here who have helped to make not just this roundtable, but many others such a success. First of all, General Montano, who we just heard from. No discussion about New Mexico military families would be complete without a man of his stature and character. He started his military career here in New Mexico and wrapped up his military career as the head of the New Mexico National Guard. And we want to thank him for bringing his experience to this conversation this afternoon. And to my dear friend, General Leonard, who has been involved in these conversations with me on a couple of occasions. He has served his country for years and has shown a great deal of leadership throughout his service. Right now, he has served as the Senate of Sergeant at Arms, and his service there was legendary. And he is here with us today, and we are grateful to have General Leonard with us today. And we also have John Garcia, who is here as well, and he'll say a few words along with the General. He is working on the New Mexico's Department of Veterans Services, one of the best in the country. And there's a reason for that because of his leadership. So we want to thank him for his participation as well. And we also have a few guests who just arrived, Chairman Joe Garcia, and several other tribal leaders, I understand. Where are you? Because I didn't get a chance. Please stand. And our good mayor of Santa Fe who greeted me, so please stand. Thank you so much. And finally, the president of this institution who is hosting us. Where's the president? Where did he go? He was here. But we want to thank the college for hosting us here today as well. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to visit a state that's given so many of its sons and daughters to protecting our nation in the military. Today, more than 1,500 troops from New Mexico are serving in Iraq and Afghanistan. Since 9/11, more than 4,000 members of New Mexico's National Guard have been called up for everything from homeland security to overseas combat. 180,000 veterans call New Mexico home. And not far from here, where we meet more than 42,000 men and women who served our country with honor, are buried in the Santa Fe National Cemetery. And I know that today we're all thinking about the troops as we talk about the families that they are thinking about every single day. They're on our minds and in our hearts every single day. And one of the things, absolutely. And one of the things that I've enjoyed most during the last 19 months that I've been out on the campaign trail are holding these kind of roundtable discussions with military spouses. These conversations have given me the opportunity to hear their stories, your stories, about your lives, your families, the unique challenges that you face. And what I say to every spouse that I meet is that I don't think most of America is aware of the challenges that these families are facing. One thing that's very clear from these conversations, though, is the pride that these families feel in this country. Pride not just in this country, but in their family, the pride in the service that the family is giving and to the loved ones who are serving the United States. And indeed, your pride is well-deserved. I'm honored to be here with all of you. Barack and I and all Americans are so grateful for the sacrifices that many of you here on the stage and many of you here in the audience are making every single day. But my job here today is relatively easy of the jobs that I've had over the last 19 months. I'm here to listen, and then I'm going to take these stories back, and I remember every single one of them. Take them back so that they become a part of guiding policy, so that we don't see and so that we get a better understanding of the extent to which policies really impact people's lives. Sometimes we miss that connect. But your lives and all of our lives are powerfully affected by the policies implemented by our government. That's why these stories are so important. And just understand, and I've told these military wives, these stories help push our country to make the changes that we're going to need to make for military families. I'm joined here on stage by 5 military spouses. They each have their own perspective on the issues that matter most to their lives, whether it's more efficient VA systems or TRICARE or better education for their children or more resources for returning servicemen and women, whatever it may be. They all have a unique perspective, but all of the women up here with me know that it's tough to make the balance, to balance a career and raising children while their spouses are away. And they're united in a vision we all share of a system that does more to support its military families, both when a spouse is deployed, but also long after he or she returns. Barack and I know that too often it feels like you're alone, on your own in this struggle. I've heard stories all over this country of military families trying to hold it together with not enough support. I know you come here, become everything. In a small way, I've experienced that over the course of this campaign, but in no way does it compare to what you're going through. You become everything to your family, your mom and dad. You're in charge of the checkbook and handing out discipline and trying to get school supplies and make sure that they're ready for the start of the school year. And many of you are taking care of in-laws and elderly family members while spouses are away and trying to make dinner and get laundry done. And then as the bills start piling up and the nights seem longer, you have the added responsibility of worrying late into the night about how you're going to manage it with not enough earnings coming in. If there's one thing that I've learned from these roundtables, it's that, as Debbie said, when our military goes to war, their families go with them. We have to remember that. And I know that many of these marriages face unique challenges. I've heard people talk about this fact that when the spouses may be deployed for months at a time in the toughest conditions imaginable, and then they come home with problems that spouses simply aren't equipped to deal with. And there can be a stigma attached to trying to get help. Or they come home, maybe life is good, but then there's a significant readjustment period. And as soon as things start getting back to normal, what happens? Then they're redeployed. and they go right back out. The bags are packed, and they start all over again. But what has also struck me in these conversations with these military spouses is just how much they take care of each other. Barack and I see how the military is really like a family, and it has to be. You fill in when the services fail, and they often do. From babysitting to untangling the bureaucracy to delivering bad news. Even if people aren't trained to do it all, they do it anyway because they have to. I'll never forget a moment on a panel when a young mother stood up, and she had never met any of the other military spouses. She was about 20, and she was in tears. She talked about how she felt alone, how she didn't know how to handle it with a young child and a limited education, even though she was trying to get her education. And one woman stood up and she said, you know, I don't know you, I've never met you before, but I will give you my number, my email address. You will no longer be alone because I am here. And all the other women on that panel stood up right along with that young woman. It was a hopeful experience. And that's the kind of courage and strength military spouses show us every single day in the shadows, and we don't even know it. They're doing everything that's asked of them and more. And they're not asking for much. They're not asking for anyone to feel sorry for them. They're proud of what they're doing. They're not asking for government to solve all their problems, not at all, not for 1 second. They're just asking for Washington, a Washington that understands and recognizes the challenges that military families face as part of their extraordinary commitment to our country. And let me tell you something, my husband Barack Obama understands that commitment. And he believes in the commitment that America must make to its military families. Barack's grandfather, as I'm sure many of you have heard, enlisted after Pearl Harbor. He marched in Patton's army. And Barack's grandmother, who's still alive, worked on a bomber assembly line while her husband was gone. Barack's mother was born at Fort Leavenworth. His grandfather returned to a country that gave him the opportunity to go to college on the GI Bill, to buy their first home with a loan from the Federal Housing Administration, and move his family west all the way to Hawaii, where he and Barack's grandmother helped to raise him. So Barack, because of these stories and experience, is determined to see that America makes the same commitment today that it made to his grandfather's generation so many years ago. And that's why one of the first things Barack did when he got to the U.S. Senate was work and maneuver to make sure he was sitting on the Veterans Affairs Committee. That was the first committee he wanted to be a part of. And he didn't waste any time. He led a bipartisan effort to improve facilities at Walter Reed, because recovering service men and women should go to the front of the line, and they shouldn't have to fight to get there. He helped pass laws that gave family members health care and a year of job protection so that they never have to choose between caring for a loved one and keeping a job. And he reached across the aisle to work with New Mexico Senator Pete Domenici to improve PTSD care and screening for our active duty service men and women and veterans. See, Washington, as he learned, talks a lot about family values. But Barack believes that it's time that we had policies that actually value families, especially military families. And what we've begun to do in these conversations is to prepare, and I brought along a copy of the Obama-Biden, because we got a running mate now. We've got a real partner. This guy is intended to do more to lay out the types of support that are available now and what Barack and Senator Biden will do for families in the future. And this guide is particularly designed for New Mexico. And hopefully, if there wasn't one in your seats, you all will get one before we leave. It's also a resource guide for the services available to you here in New Mexico to help find jobs or to get health care or family support where needed, because we found that some military spouses become so isolated sometimes that they don't even know that the services that currently exist. So this guide is a plan to help make some links where possible. But the Obama-Biden plan will ensure predictable deployments, just to give you a sense of what he wants to do, so that units have time to retrain and re-equip, and families have time to reconnect. Because healthier families lead to healthier troops. It just makes sense. And Barack will expand the Family and Medical Leave Act to cover reserve families, so that when a reservist is called up, that spouse can take time off work to get the family affairs in order before the deployment. Sounds simple. He wants to expand the veterans centers that provide critical services like counseling and employment assistance. He'll also expand mental health care so that our servicemen and women get the attention that they need, and our families don't have to cope with the psychological wounds that come with war. And Barack wants to create what he's called a 21st century VA that offers world-class care and rejects the idea that we should only treat combat injuries, but not those sustained in training or on the deck of an aircraft carrier. And when your loved ones return home, they should get the same opportunity that Barack's grandfather had under the GI Bill, the guarantee of a real chance to afford a college education. That's why Barack was a strong supporter of Jim Webb's 21st century GI Bill, which would allow service members to share their benefits with their families, so more people can achieve the American dream. That's the idea. That's the idea at the core of Barack's campaign, that we're all in this together, each and every one of us. This is a community that understands that better than anybody. The military community understands that you don't go it alone. And I know we have many Hispanic Americans here with us today. And your community has such a strong and proud tradition of military service. More than 128,000 Hispanic servicemen and women have been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan since 2001. And almost 450 Hispanic American troops have died in Iraq. And that's the highest total for any minority group in the U.S. And there are more Hispanic Medal of Honor winners than in any other ethnic group. These soldiers and their families are serving our country honorably, yet many aren't citizens yet. These men and women are willing to put their lives on the line for a country they dream of one day calling their own. So Barack believes that we should make their dreams a reality. Which is why he believes we should do all we can to expedite these applications for citizenship. If you've made the commitment, Barack believes if you've made the commitment to serve this country, then we should welcome you fully into the American family. So Barack has the honor of serving as our president, and I have the privilege of serving as First Lady. Please know that we are going to keep having these conversations. In fact, no matter what the outcome of this election in November, we're going to keep having these conversations. Because the commander-in-chief doesn't only need to know how to lead the military, he also needs to understand what war does to military families and what he can do to make your lives better. That's why we're here. So thank you for joining me. I've said enough. I could go on, but I won't. It is time now to hear from our panel, and we'll start with the good general who will lead us off, just to let the spouses warm up. I always tell them, don't be nervous. Ignore those people with the cameras in the back. Pretend like they're not there. I have to do it all the time. And know that we are all right behind you as you share your stories. So I will turn it over to the general, and we'll also have time for Q&A as well. Thank you all for coming and sharing this conversation with me.